With our presentation, Genesis, in the beginning. In Hebrew, these three words are actually condensed into one word, and that is Berashit. Berashit is the Hebrew for in the beginning. Now today, in modern Hebrew, their figures a little bit different than ours. Berashit. Berashit. What's in the beginning? Well, I can say that for most Jews, for most Israelis that I've ever met, it means the same thing to them as it does to us. In the beginning. The question, though, is what really was in the beginning? This is the ultimate question. And as I said to you before, it's really on your cell phones and laptops. Continuing with our story and our characters, what do you think this could be about? After all, a picture is worth something. This is actually an ox. An ox or a bull's head. It's a bull's head. In the Middle East, they don't have elephants, tigers, or bears. Oh my. Thereby, the bull was symbolic of the strongest creature. It was symbolic of the strongest beast. And as such, necessarily, it would be first. It would be first. Now, if you were to follow me to one of my favorite places in New York City, the Metropolitan Museum, on the second level, they have an exhibit called the Near East exhibit. And there you will find 10-foot tall bull men. Bull men, because these were their kings. These were their leaders. And the image and presentation to the public was, this guy is strong, he's first, don't mess with him. Unfortunately, they would carry it to the extreme of not just being a bull man, they would be a bull god. And this is the presentation that everybody is supposed to believe. To best be able to read this, we need to look at it from a different point of view. And if we take our arrows and we rotate this bull's head, we come out with our A. A, first, strongest, just an A to us today. However, welcome to the world of Hebraic pictographs. For you've grown up always hearing that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, here a letter is worth at least 3 or 4 meanings. And the bottom line is, if you can't read it, you don't know what you're looking at. Thereby, with the beginning of this, the beginning of what's on your laptop and cell phone, follow me into picking up where the thing is going, reading the old story. Our next character for consideration is this. Again, if you've been to the Valley of the Kings, you'll see these all over the Pharaoh's tombs. But what is it? It's actually a living space. People would enter here. This would be the primary room where they would sleep and do whatever they do, just like your house. Thereby, It is a house. It is a house. And like A, if we were to rotate this picture, we would get our B. Our B. Thereby, what have we spelled so far? We've spelled ob, or in English, ob. The question is, now, whose house is this? If you permit me, the Big Bang. The Big Bang, you've heard about, but the question is, who made the Big Bang? And the answer can only be that Ab, which is Hebrew for father. And it is the very first word in the Bible. The Father, the Father's house. Okay, so if this is the Father's house, who is the Father? He's the strongest, the first. Leader, more than leader, he is God. Now, the question is, does God live in a house? Well, certainly not in any of the flimsy houses we have today made of sheetrock, plastic, and tarred roofs, that's for sure, or any man-made cave, temple, shrine, or religious organization claiming anything. For his house is the universe. Everything your finite minds can imagine, older than time, before everything. His communication to mankind through Berashit, through the B, through the A, through the B, through the A. Berashit. And this is the beginning of everything, the Father. Continuing with our presentation, in the beginning, Berashit, as it is written here in the modern Hebrew, and of course over here in the pictographs. We had already discussed the B, and we discussed the A. Putting it together spells Ab, which is Hebrew for Father, the Creator. Our next letter or character, pictograph, for consideration is the R sound. R sound, the original picture in the pictograph is something like this. It will later evolve into characters something like this, and eventually, time it comes down to the Romans, it actually is our R, and it still carries the pronunciation of the R, resh. As it is in the house of the Father, necessarily it would have to mean something, and it does. It means the head. It is a head, and as it looks, it does appear to be a head, the head of something, okay? So the head of something, and a sum of something. A sum of something. The question is, what is this? As it is in the Father's house, we can only go back to who would be the original discoveries of this. Who has presented this to everybody? And that would only be the Jews, the rabbis. And we take this R sound, and when we put it next to the B, it actually spells Rob. And Rob is short for rabbi. Who would be the teachers of all of this? Because it always goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And who were these people? They were sons of the Father. So, Abraham, by the way, there's the father's name, father of many. Father of many or of many nations. He had a son also. His name was Isaac, who carried on the father's knowledge of who he was. And finally, he would go become a father himself to Jacob, and Jacob would be the father of the 12 tribes, which would later form Israel. So these were sons of God. Sons of God. Okay, as we look at this, we're starting to see that this son can only be a son as well. Why? He's the head of something. He's the sum of something. And what is the continuation of any house? And that is the son of the Father. Son of the Father, Rabbi, which will give us the knowledge of who the Father is in his sons through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the sons of God, as it's depicted here. Our next character for consideration is the Hebrew shin. Our Hebrew shin, and the pictograph is that. And what are we looking at? But teeth. Teeth. And teeth are sharp. And what do you do with your teeth? You devour. You consume. You consume. You eat. Okay. The modern Hebrew depicts it like this. Now, it's not RW. Indeed, in Hebrew, when it has what we call a vowel marker here, it certainly is the shin. But when the vowel marker is on the opposite side, it's actually pronounced sin. We take the shin here and we combine it with our previous letter, the resh, and we have another Hebrew word, and this spells prince. Prince or warrior. Prince or warrior. Later on, we would call these people counts, dukes, and today we would call these people bankers, politicians. Now, historically, the princes, the counts, the politicians have been very hard on society. They haven't been very good much of the time because the record in the timeline is humanity killing each other a large part of the time. However, if you were to go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 9:6, there's another prince there, only he's called the Prince of Peace. He's called the Prince of Peace. To expand upon this, we have to go a little bit further down the alphabet, the alphabet, to our next letter for consideration, and this is going to be the chet. It's pronounced chet, quite different than anything we have in English. It's a very lower throat guttural sound, pronounced het. And it's a symbol of a fence or a wall. Of course, on the news today, Trump is trying to build his wall along the US-Mexico border. You should recall that a wall does actually two things. It not only keeps out, it keeps things in. But for our consideration here, we're going to take this fence, this het, place it here, and put the shin next to it. And what is the meaning of this? Shin devours or consumes the wall, and through this we get the Hebrew word humble. Humble. What is humble? But to overcome, to destroy your own wall, your own self of jealousy, pride, and your own interest. It's difficult to become humble. Not many of us can achieve this. Either way, this is part of the pictographs of the old story. Progressing along in the story, we have to go further down the alphabet, and we come to the 8th letter, and this is called Mem. And the pictograph looks like this. It's pronounced Mem, and today in our English it is the M. The M. And what do you think this looks like? This is water. It's also blood. It is mighty. And it is also very chaotic. It's chaos. You've heard before that water is a blessing or a curse, and destruction comes in like a flood. Progressing down the alphabet a little further to the 10th letter, we come to a very interesting pictograph, and it looks like this, and it's pronounced Yud. It is actually a hand, a clenched hand at a 90-degree angle. And it carries the meaning, we don't have this in English, it carries the meaning of made, work, and as we work, as we make things, sometimes we make a mess. Sometimes we fail to open our hands to the poor when we should have. You see, a man can sin in more ways than not doing something. He can do something or not do something. So, the very lives that we live, there's mistakes made, there's good things made. But what is the highest level that anyone could possibly do something in making something would be to take your hands and say, Father, forgive me, I am a sinner. To pray with your hands is also a very high act of anybody's hand. Okay, looking at the picture so far, and it's part of the big picture, we start to put these things together, and we can spell something. Here's the M, ma, she, ak. In Hebrew, in the modern Hebrew, this carries with it vowel markers, which we don't get in the original pictographs, but in English, the translation is Messiah, the Prince of Peace. Now, what is the message in the pictograph? And it is this, that the blood of the Prince of Peace destroys that works that we make in our lives through sinning, destroys the wall of separation from the Father. Where is the Father? From Moses onward, we have the tabernacle, the tent. And then later on, we'll have the temple, or the house of God. And in both of these, you would have a veil or a curtain, a wall of separation that separated the holy from the common. Well, through Christ, Messiah's accomplishment, we're going to see that in Matthew 27, it says, and Jesus, Yeshua, when he had cried out on the cross and he gave up the spirit, said, behold, the veil of the temple was rent in two, and there was an earthquake. So, what takes place is the Messiah's blood destroys the works of mankind, entering into the separated wall or holy of holies where the Father is to make atonement for mankind, for he is the Prince of Peace.